Hello, you gorgeous lot. It's Gran here with a new series of Vintage Story. I uploaded my last episode from Series 1 on Thursday, and this is Episode 1 of Series 2. So I hope you enjoy all the shenanigans and all the progress we're going to make in this series, because I'm planning on making a lot. I've already got an idea of what I want to do, so I hope you'll follow along and see it through with me. And I start off with a gigantic blooper, which I hope I could rectify a little bit later.
Oh yeah, I can see you.
Oh, am I there?
I see
Oh. I was sporting quite a colourful look for several days as I confirmed my character class before I actually customised my skin. Hadn't realised you had to do one before the other.
Looking a bit strange right now.
I'm just going back to what I was last time, really, because I got used to that, so...
Yeah.
I tried to do that, but
There
I
we
couldn't
go.
remember what the hair was.
Right, so... That's all I've done
Not
so
that it
far.
matters with this
All
awesome
right.
mask.
Oh, thank you so
Let
much for
me-
meeting me.
Give you some stuff.
Thank you. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, Maddie, you're throwing stuff at me.
Oops,
I'll get closer.
sorry.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Oh,
Nice.
I'm sorry.
Ooh. Nice, thank you. Nice. Okay, that is great. Let me just...
How did I get a tin bronze knife? Who does that belong to?
That's mine. I wanted to give that to Gran
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
because I just made myself an iron one.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can't believe you're iron already. Oh my goodness. That's awesome.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Spawn was on a large area of shale gravel. It was quite grey, and I think I agreed with Tin when she said it would go quite well with granite. Although we started off east, we really wanted to go south, and we carried on going south once we turned that way for quite some time, about 600 blocks or so. And we soon found the landscape changing, and it became more grassy and more hilly, and we needed to be much more careful to avoid those hidden holes that were around every corner. And we found ourselves chatting about all the things that had gone on in the past week, mostly how everyone had been exploring and finding lots of things to interest them. I found myself being distracted by my environment, not really taking any of the details in that I should have been, like marking out fire clay and looking for wild vegetables, although I did notice there was quite a few sheep around this area, so I know where I'd be coming if I got desperate for food. We were now heading west, and I did think that I'd have to make this journey again at a slower pace so I could take more things in. And I found myself wondering about where I'd be staying for the next few days. Maddie had already built a little community house, and that's where I'd been invited to stay whilst I got settled. Although I think it might be a while before I settle, because I'm looking for somewhere specific. Somewhere pretty. Somewhere with water. Somewhere away from a forest. Somewhere with a few hills. Because I have a house in mind that I'd like to build. And it demands somewhere pretty. And there's a few things I'd like to build around it as well. So it needs to be spacious. We were now in an area with granite gravel and granite sand. The sand, and the gravel actually, would be quite good for panning. But I didn't stop to get any. I just carried on, at a pace, behind the other two. Swathes of flowers were an instant distraction, and we found our pace came to a halt when we came across them. We made good progress as we picked up the pace again, and my inventory was starting to fill with interesting things along the way. It was getting late in the year now because people had been very busy this last week. We were already in September, and the trees, as you could see, were clothing themselves with their autumn colours, which meant that there wasn't much time before winter would be upon us. And I really wanted to find somewhere before then, because it would be the colours that I saw in the summer and the autumn that would determine which area was pretty. And before we knew it, we arrived at our destination. I tried to ignore the fact that everybody was so advanced with their builds, and I'll leave showing them off until they're a bit more complete. In the meantime, I concentrated on the community aspects of the village. And first was Maddie's farm, where I was invited to plant things if I needed to. And then there was the aviary, and I was invited to exchange an empty skep for a full one when I was ready. They had a temporal bunker that was all kitted out, And you could even do a bit of panning if you didn't want to tackle any of the drifters.
And then Gran, this is your starter house.
Oh, that is such a nice little house.
I started it on the foundation of a ruin, so
Oh,
it was
nice.
a nice easy start.
Wow. Oh yes, this'll do nicely, thank you very much.
No problem. And as you can see, the floor is covered, so you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about mobs spawning in here. You got a pit kiln, and nothing's gonna burn, and you've got a cellar for food.
Oh,
It's little because I haven't gotten to expand it yet,
Yeah.
but we'll get there.
well, it was night time and we all decided we'd sleep through the night. I couldn't have got a better start. Thanks so much, Maddie and Tinnikin. It wasn't until the next day that I actually realised my mistake with choosing my class first. I had blue skin, I had a red mohawk and a red beard. Not a pretty look for a gran. The next day I went out to find some blue clay, and there was quite a big patch very near the village, so it didn't take me too long before I'd filled my inventory, and then I started collecting some of the essentials I didn't collect on the way here. Lots of grass, and there was grass everywhere. And I made lots of pots. I made storage jars. Lots of crocks. And lots of bowls. And by the time it got night again, I had 9 pits full of pottery that needed firing. The next day I did a little bit of exploring north. I needed to find some trees that I could cut down for my pit kilns. And down a little hole, I found a rusty gear, just sat there on the floor. Was this a thing now? I wasn't going to say no. I found north a little bit too flat and barren for me, and it was taking me further and further away from the village. I had wondered how far away from everyone I was prepared to go to find my ideal location, and I wasn't quite sure at this point. I would like to stay pretty close if I could find somewhere suitable. I did wander quite a bit north, picking up stones and just looking around and seeing what it was like. But I can't say this sort of environment was anything that I was looking for. No, I just didn't feel it. It just didn't feel like what I wanted. Back in the village, I bumped into Maddie, and she helped me out with some linen so I could make a sling. I felt much safer with a sling. It was a weapon I used a lot in Series 1. I think it's a reliable ranged weapon. It's simple to use and quite effective. So it wasn't long before I was heading out in the opposite direction. I went south, in the hope that I could find something a little bit more interesting. There were certainly more hills down south, and it was a little bit more colourful. So I decided to get over the hills just in front of me and see what I could see on the other side. And once I got there, what I saw pleased me a great deal. It was very pretty. It was very pretty indeed. I liked it a lot. And the more I looked, the more I liked it. And Maddie liked it too. So that was it for me. This was the place. There were lots of hills behind me, and I quite liked that thought. There was lots of greenery and a nice variety of trees, but far enough away not to be a problem. And there was a nice flattish area for me to build on. I loved the lakes, and that there was more than one of them. There were some little ponds around, and I quite like those. I quite like the thought of having the house halfway onto the lake. Yeah, I was picturing things were popping into my mind, and I quite liked what I saw. There was one tiny thing I had noticed in some areas around here, that my wheel was going anti-clockwise. Not fast, but anti-clockwise nevertheless. And it wasn't in all the areas. Some areas it was quite stable, and some areas it was going clockwise. But in some, it was going anti-clockwise, and I wasn't quite sure whether that would be a problem or not. And then I decided. I was prepared to find out. This was it. This was gorgeous. I loved it. and it was mine. So I marked it on the map and I called it home. I was now super excited and I couldn't wait to start. I chopped down some trees that were behind the community house that had been planted for community use. And I started the process of firing my pots. Right, I should be far away from everything, I hope, so as not to set anything on fire.
Oh, grass catches.
No, really? Ah!
Yeah.
There's grass all the way around here. No, don't fire. Oh, does it just burn out? Oh no, it's burning me. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, never found that out the hard way.
Oh dear. There is grass here and it is on fire. Oh no.
I've got a bucket. I'm coming.
Ah no. Please don't burn down anybody's house. Oh, it's right over here. No, stop it. It didn't do that before, did it?
No, it didn't.
Oh. Oh my goodness me.
So there should be half a stack of cobble in your chest over here so that you can make
yes.
linings around it.
Ah, right, okay. Okay, I'll do that. Okay,
Well,
so...
I mean, it's par for the course from last season where we all burnt our houses down.
Well, that's true, but they've made... Oh, why has that gone that way? They've made new ways for us to burn things down now.
Yeah.
Come on now, stop. Let me just put those in there.
Yeah, just a big square around it should be safe.
Oh, wow. The sneaky devils,
yeah,
honestly. Oops, Daisy.
I think they're changing it as they see us figure things out.
So, one layer then, will that be enough, do you think?
I think this should keep it in,
Should
yes.
keep it in, okay. Oh, honestly, the rotters. Here we go. Okay.
Quite the smoke signal.
It was that I could have just done one pit, you know, but it's going to take a long time, isn't it? And I wanted all my crockery to make all my food.
Yeah.
Right, I shall leave that to do its thing then.
Excellent.
Nice. It's so good getting your pots out of the firing pit. But I think I might have overdone it just a little bit. Especially as I hadn't got anywhere to put them. I squeezed them in everywhere. And couldn't wait till they were full of food and in my pantry. But that would take a while. It wasn't very long at all before I made the decision to go over and start a little base over where I was going to live. I really did want to build up a huge amount of stuff to then have to bring all the way over here. I thought I'd do a little bunker at the back here, around a little pond. That way I could do a bit of panning when there was a temporal storm. There were little patches of flax around, which was very useful. And I could see some sheep. I wanted to see how many there were. If I remember rightly, I did see these when I first came. There was a little flock there. I'd hope to catch some of those. That would be really good. But I was going to concentrate on building a little bunker around this little pond here. And finding a sundial shell right where I was going to build just sort of cemented the idea in my mind that this was the right place to be. Well, I'd built my little dirt home, and wouldn't you know it, a rift had appeared right next to it. The evening was drawing in, and soon it would be very dark, and I needed a bed. So I was quickly collecting some grass when my knife broke. And of course you don't get grass without the knife. So I had to make another one, so I could sleep the rest of the night away when it got late enough, as I was the only one left on the server. So grass collected, I hurried back to my snug little dirt hut. I blocked up the hole with dirt, because I didn't have the means to make a proper door. Then thought of making a thicker barrier next to the wall I'd be standing by to do the panning, which made complete sense to me. I had known an arm or two come through a wall, and cause a fair bit of damage to an unsuspecting panner, minding their own business. So another line of dirt, I thought, would make me a lot safer. And then I bunged the door up again, and did feel safer actually. They wouldn't get me through there. So now I could make myself a bed, and that rift was getting louder. I'm sure it was shuffling its way towards me. Well, at least it wouldn't be able to get in here, and nothing would be able to spawn in here either. I had stones and sticks on the floor, and the ceiling was only too high. So down went my bed, and as soon as it got late enough, I would be in it and passing the night away. I could only sleep for 7 hours in this bed, so I had to choose my time wisely. Well, I'd been panning for a while, and the sound of gentle sand washing was accompanied by the low, dull, rumbling growls of nearby drifters. But I did feel quite safe, and was quietly celebrating a little pile of copper that I could see accumulating in my inventory. I'd gotten into quite a rhythm with the panning, and my mind had wandered, and before I knew it, it was morning, and the sound of drifters had been replaced by rain, and my little pile of copper had risen to 36, only another 4, and I could get started with my first essential copper tools. Well, it was time to get out of my little mud hut. It was morning, it was bright, and although it was raining, it was quite refreshing, I thought. Could hardly see my mud hut with all the grass that had grown on top. It had merged into the environment, and a gorgeous environment it was too. And then I spotted some of the drifters that must have spawned during the night over in the ponds, and I thought I might have a go at getting a few. I really needed to be more proactive at getting these horrid little annoying critters, but I really wasn't very good at close combat. Probably because I hadn't got any good weapons, and I ended up resorting to using my sling at a distance, and which usually worked out quite well, and they were soon running off, eager to get away from my stones. I did pursue 1 or 2 of them, but they gave as good as they got, and keeping my eye on the trees across the way there, I harvested 1 or 2 of them, just in case I got lucky and found a temporal gear. But I wasn't, and I didn't. I had one last go with a drifter that got himself to a bit of trouble in the lake and was trying to get out. It caused him to turn and actually run towards me, which was very fortunate for me. And once he'd succumbed, I went over to harvest him as well. But alas, there was nothing in that one either. And then I spotted a few cattails and thought I could get those and actually transplant them over to my side of the lake. I was keeping a very close eye on those trees over there. Although I hadn't heard any wolves or seen any bears, I didn't want to be taken by surprise. And then I started heading back, thinking I'd chanced my arm a little bit too much on this side of the lake. I was collecting a bit of flint when out the corner of my eye I spotted some terra preta. I was definitely having that. This was the richest soil in the game, and it grew crops faster than any other soil type, and I wasn't going to leave any of it behind. What a find. And forever keeping my eye on those trees, I was just wondering at my luck, and then found some turnips right next to it. As they were not fully grown, I thought I'd leave them in place, seeing as they were right next to my base. If I was on the move, I would have picked them in the hope of getting a seed. The rest of the day was spent ferrying things from my temporary home in the village back to my little mud hut. And it wasn't far away at all. It only took me a minute or so to get there. And I was quite jealous as I passed everybody's farms and they had things growing. I'd missed the whole summer. The whole summer. But I would catch up. I kept trying to pick things up, but things weren't fitting in my inventory because I was just so full. I needed to make much more storage. I needed to explore as well. And I needed to establish a food supply. I'd have to make a proper path through here as well. It was alright negotiating all these ponds, but I'd stuffed out my torches a few times coming backwards and forwards and accidentally ending up in the pond. I examined all the stones I came across looking for copper, of course, but I hadn't found any yet. But I'm sure I would come across it at some point. And I hoped when I did, I would have my pick ready. And here we were back home again. It didn't take long at all. I decided I would have to sacrifice one or two of the sheep around my base because I was starting to get a little bit desperate for food. So I singled out a couple that were together and I thought they would have to do. Things had changed a little bit, actually. Well, of course, besides being more careful about where I threw my stones, I would need to try and make sure that the sling wasn't the thing that killed the animal. It was obviously my lucky day. I persisted with my sling with its mate, but it was one too many. Six meat and one large hide. Not very much from something that was at good weight. 15 meat, 2 large hide and some fat. That was a much better harvest, and that was because I didn't kill it with my sling. So red meat stew and boiled red currants would have to be my meal for today. You may. So I shall be doing a little bit more exploring, trying to find some essential resources. Peat and some clay nearby would be good. And finding out what caves I had round here as well. So next time I'll show you how I got on with that, and I start the foundations for my new build. So take care everybody, and I'll see ya in the next episode. Bye bye.